Brooke, shall we?
Let's do it, girl.
Okay. Hello.
Welcome everybody. It's us again. We're here again.
Us too.
What is this again, Stevie?
Oh, this is the
Help podcast.
and today we're actually doing this remotely because of the coronavirus, the COVID.
19. This is our first shot at this setup, so hopefully everything goes well. If anything sounds strange, then just blame it on me.
Blame it on me. We helped ourselves as much as we could, okay? Here.
We're doing our best.
Yeah.
Doing our best. As that's all good that can be expected of any of us, I feel like.
Yeah.
So, you know.
Expectations are low right now. You know, you're kind of stuck to your house.
I know. There's not a lot going on. Like, whatever you're doing is great, I feel like.
Yeah. No rock climbing meetups or anything like that.
No marathon groups or anything that you're missing out on.
No Coffee Tuesday at the local shop.
There's no Motivation Monday. We're not grinding right now, people. We're chilling.
All right. So, Brooke, who do we have here today?
Girl, today we've got an amazing guest that I'm super stoked to talk about. We're not just going to talk about you. We're going to talk to you.
With you.
Also.
To you, with you.
With you. At you. Not about you. Today we have Lily joining us. Hi, Lily.
Hi.
My dog is...
Thanks for having me.
Of course, thank you. Thank you for coming on the show. And as everybody should know, we all single-handedly have dogs with us right now. So you might hear a little yeehaw from the dog in the background.
Yeah, a little nice to be here.
Yeah.
Just want to join in on the conversation, really.
Yes, Maggie likes to have her voice heard.
That's cool.
Okay, I think she's settled. I think we're good.
That's funny. So we've been, y'all guys, Lily's been so patient with us during all this like difficult time, and as well as us just trying to get it together. But she's kind of shared a little bit about us. She comes from a family and she actually just moved, y'all. She just moved during COVID into a new apartment as well.
Looks like. Girl.
Yeah. And I guess it's,
stuff.
Yeah. And we were just discussing even how toilet paper's out and everything like that.
It's insane.
It's a wild world out there.
It is.
I just see a lot of people in my new apartment complex lugging giant cases of water from their car, like one on each shoulder, and it'll just be like a troop of, like 4 people just coming back and forth. And I'm just like a clown car of like getting water out. Just like, guys, the world isn't actually ending. I don't know that it's... we could just get a Brita filter. I think that would be sufficient.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
You guys are going to make the world end with all of your landfill plastic.
Right?
Like, what are you doing here?
I know. Well, and I think I'm coming to your house. Okay? That's not really an essential thing, though. And I think of like things I need. I'm not like toilet paper. I'm like, I could do without.
I could make this work.
Well, I'd make it work.
I mean, in desperate times, bidet attachments are like $30 on Amazon.
Oh, that's true.
And as we were discussing, people were saying you can just go to Home Depot and get a whole box of like cheap rags for like under $10. So, I mean, boom, there you go. That's problem solved. Beat the system.
There are solutions. We're going to be all right.
Hopefully. Keep trying. So, Lily, do you want to share anything with the audience, like where you were raised? I'm not sure. Or like just a little bit about yourself before we start on, because today I wanted to personally label this episode Strength and Positivity, but I'm not sure. But is there anything you want to share with the listeners about yourself and where you're from?
Yeah, sure. So I'll kind of keep some things a little vague just for anonymity purposes.
Yeah,
but I was born and raised in the Midwest, and I loved it for the most part. I mean, living in the Midwest, that is, I don't think I realized just how small town where I was growing up was until I got older. And then I was just like, oh my God, I know nothing. I know nothing of the world. I have seen nothing. Why is everything I think I know is a lie? And so I remember very vividly going from a very small, a high school of less than 400 students, less than 100 students in my graduating class. And I transferred in the middle of I think between sophomore to junior year. And I went to a high school that had over 3,000 students.
Oh my God.
Okay.
And so it was, my mind was blown. I was just like, I have no understanding. It was a huge culture shock. And so that was my intro into life, was very small town Midwest, and then kind of like bigger Midwest. And then I went to college, graduated, and right after graduating, I had a job, and they let me know 6 months ahead of time. They're like, hey, your position no longer is going to be available around this time. Yeah. We really, we're really sorry. We love you. We can keep you on as part-time, but that's all we'll be able to offer. And so I was like, cool. Thank you for the heads up. Really appreciate that. And so I was like, I started getting to work. I'm like, what did I want to do? And as I was looking at things, I realized the lease on my apartment at the time was ending the same day that I was the last day of that job. And at the time I was, unattached, and I would just graduated. So I was like, I want to go out and see the world. My mind was blown just moving to a bigger city. I've not seen anything. I've barely been around the country, let alone anywhere out there. And so I remember it was, in the span of 5 months, I went and applied online one night, in the middle of the night on a Tuesday, to teach abroad in South Korea. And then 5 months later, I was on a plane to go live in South Korea. It happened very fast in retrospect, but at the time it felt like it was taking ages.
Forever.
Yeah. Did it hit you right then when you applied, or as the date came closer, you're like, hey, y'all didn't fire me yet, right? We're still doing this.
Well, so that's actually really funny. No, it didn't hit me right away, because I think, and we'll probably get into this more as we talk more about my upbringing and stuff, with the way that I was raised, it just, things did not really happen like that for me. I just didn't think I'd get accepted. Okay. It didn't seem I was this is just I'm going to be a famous actress one day. I'm going to have $1 million, just one of those dreams that we, I'm going to ride off on a horse into the sunset and live a happily ever after, just one of those fairy tale ideas. Part of me never really believed that it would happen, because it was just that's not something I could do. That's not something someone like me was able to do, was smart enough, or had enough money or whatever to do, or was brave enough. And so I think at that point I was still just I was doing it, but I was just, this, I doubt this will even, it's probably a scam. This isn't even a real company,
Sure.
And then I remember I was starting to go through the interview process, and they were sending me a fuck ton of paperwork to fill out and send off to every other goddamn place under the sun to get signed and stamped and this and that and checked and verified. And oh my God. And so around then, and I was starting to tell people there's paperwork. People are supposedly expecting me. I think I'm actually going to move, guys, to South Korea. And I don't really think at this point many other people believed me either, because I was originally supposed to fly out at the end of July, beginning of August. And then right at that time, they're like, hey, no, wait, you can't come yet. The school's not ready. You've got to wait another 2 weeks, and then they'll be ready for you to come out. And so I was like, okay, no big deal. I don't have a job or a place to live or a car, but it's fine. 2 weeks, I can crash on someone's couch and live out of my suitcases in BD. And so that turned into a month and a half. And of them just being no, they're not ready yet. Okay, no, they're ready. No, they're not ready yet. They're not ready yet. And me being guys, I don't know. am I being punked? Like, what's happening?
Not.
Is this safe?
And,
you know?
and so, well, I know I was starting to get like discouraged, but I was also like, I'm very stubborn. And so then it was like, no, you fucking told me I had a job over there. Like, I spent all this money and all this time signing all this paperwork. You are going to bring me over there if it is the last thing either one of us do. And so finally, like, I remember it was like the middle of September, and I was just like, no. Like, I have no money. I'm at the end of my money. Like, I have nowhere to live. You have to, like, you've got to bring me. I don't care what it takes. Figure it out. You've had a month and a half. What is the school doing? And so they're like, okay, fine. We'll bring you over. And so they did. They flew me out, and I went and I had training at like the head office in a city outside of Seoul. And then they sent me down to my city in like southern South Korea, and I get there only to realize that the school that they told me was like a fully operational. It had students, other native teachers.
Oh no!
It was like it was like a big, a school. It was not open yet.
Oh, no.
It didn't have students. It didn't have supplies. It was just like this empty third floor that needed to be made ready still. They hadn't even gotten the license from the Board of Education to open it yet. So they're like, so hey, no big deal. We just put on all your paperwork that you're living and working outside of Seoul. And we're just going to have you work at this other private kindergarten that we own and have that's below the one you're supposed to work at. And we'll just pay you under the table until all that other paperwork gets worked out. And so me, being the young and naive, hopeful human I was like, yeah, that sounds legit. Like, why would my, recruitment company send me here if this wasn't okay? And I mean, I'm still getting paid, and like, they're going to send me to Japan for a visa run. So like, this is fine, whatever.
Yeah.
And then of course that quickly turned into 4 months of them being like, oh no, just another few weeks and then it'll come through. And then, hey, the Board of Education is coming. You're not supposed to be here because you're legally not allowed to be here. You don't exist. Can you leave for the day? And me like having to sneak out of the back of the school so they wouldn't see me. And then like, finally I was just like, guys, I need like an alien registration card. I'm an illegal immigrant. And that sounds funny and like a cool, quippy, early 20s story, but I don't know that it's one I actually want to be able to tell. So maybe we should do something. And they're like, okay, sure, fine. We're going to send you back to Japan with all this paperwork we're going to get all this done. Only for me to find out that they were forging the information on that paperwork as well, saying that I was still living and working in Incheon, which the city that I was in was 5 hours away from there. So it was not correct information. And so finally, like, I had one of my friends who was Korean American come with me into a meeting with my bosses, and I was like, I need out of this contract. Like, you guys already broken. Like, I'm an illegal alien. I need out. I need to be able to find legal employment. Please just sign the paperwork that I need you to sign so I can do that. Because otherwise I would have had to have left the country and waited maybe like a year or so for things to clear without like a letter of release from my current employers. It was a bunch of red tape nonsense. And so eventually, after like 2.5 hours of debate and whatnot, we got through that. They were like, fine, we'll let you go. You have a week left in your apartment to find a new place to live and to find a new job. We're going to keep your last paycheck. Bye.
What?
And so luckily I had friends that were like, hey, we have a job that has an opening. My boss said she'll give you an interview if you can meet, like right now. And I was like, done, I'm on my way.
Let's go.
And that interview went very well, and I got that job. So it lined up perfectly. And then that boss, who was kind of a nightmare, but also really came to bat for me early on, because she went to the immigration office and spent almost 4 hours with immigration and me at the immigration office, like yelling back and forth with them and my previous employers, because my previous employers didn't fill out the paperwork that they needed to in order to show that they gave me a letter of release and released me from my contract. And so they were like, she can't work for this new company. She still works for this other company, but she's also illegal from this other company. She has to go back to America. And my boss was like, no, please don't do that. We want her at our company. What do we need to do? And it was this very like tense, is she going to be deported? Is she going to get to stay? And then I did get to stay. She went and fought with them, and then she went and got me an apartment and fully furnished it for me all before I even started working for her. And then she's like, I don't have full-time work for you for another 2 months, so I can give you part-time work. And that's, I hope that's okay. Because this all happened kind of at the middle/end of the Korean school year. So it was not a good time to have to be looking for a new job. And so like for 2 months, I went by on like paying via my credit card and then having like maybe the equivalent of $800 to $900, like getting paid that a month only. Okay. And so that was a fun time. And so I lived in South Korea for a while doing that. Things stabled out after that point and were much better. I stayed with that company for another 2 years, well, 2.5 years, and had a great time, traveled to a bunch of other countries during that time. I got to do body paint modeling in South Korea while I was there. It was an amazing time. And then I came back to the States and I was like, why did I leave? Everything here is way more complicated and way more expensive. What was I thinking? We have who for president? No, this is what? And then now here we are. So, and COVID-19, pandemic of the century.
So when did you get back from South Korea?
I got back, oh my gosh, the beginning to middle of 2016, so right before the 2016 election. Yeah,
you came back right into the thick of it.
Just a great time to come back and be welcomed into America.
Yep.
Did you have friends that were like knew you were there, that you were keeping in contact? And was there ever a moment where you're just freaking scared? Because that's pretty scary, to be put in a situation. I felt like that's really compromising.
No, yeah, it was definitely. I had friends back home and everything that I was able to keep in contact with, and I was letting know, the status of everything. And for a while, they were like, "You just need to come back. It's not. This is not sounding how it's supposed to be. You should just come back." And me being a stubborn asshole was like, "No, I'm here. Like, if I come back, I'm not going to leave again. I know that I'm just going to, it took, 23, 24 years to get out. I'm not coming back now just because it's hard. Like, what about my life up to this point has been easy necessarily? So I was just like, no, if I'm going to be broke and struggling at a job, like, let it be here where it's an adventure, not where I was already doing that and miserable. Like, if I have to be broke, miserable, and struggling, I'm going to do it in South Korea where it's something new and different. And maybe I'll learn something or experience something new instead of just the same thing that I have been. And it did, and it worked out. It worked out very well. I made amazing friendships. I feel like it helped me grow so much. It was honestly the first time in my life that I can say that I ever felt truly like free and on my own and like safe. I was removed from everyone and everything. I was like halfway around the world, soonest a 13-hour plane ride away. So it was very much like, this is real life, full force.
Yeah. There's always like, and even those like epiphany moments when you like move out from your like hometown that you go through, you're like, wow, I like this stuff, or like this stuff is cool. You're like experience that in the midst of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
I feel like it was just. Go ahead.
Go on. No, you felt like it was just.
I was just. I feel like the whole time I was there, it was just constant moments of those like epiphanies, just like, oh my gosh, what? Like discovering new things about myself and the world and my place in it, and just like, just everything. I think that it's so important. I feel like everyone should be forced to live in another country for like minimum 6 months to a year, and have to experience life in a country where their culture is the minority. Just because it's so different. It really puts a lot of things into perspective for you. And it really, I think, helps, it makes you more humble and more empathetic. And I think that especially now, this is, the world could use much more of that.
Yeah, definitely. So when you came back, did you have like a game plan, or you were just like, man, I'm overwhelmed with what's going on in the world right now? Like, which direction?
I had a game plan. My plan was actually to like come back and I think like work getting towards some more teaching certificates and education certifications and stuff. And then I wanted to go back abroad and live in Cambodia. That did not happen. I came back and then one thing led to another and I decided to apply for the Peace Corps. And I was accepted and invited to join. And I was supposed to leave for the Peace Corps back in 2017. But right at that time is when I fell sick with, well, I don't even know, I guess gastritis that turned into IBS that just never got better. And so then I became ineligible to go because I wouldn't be able to have like a controlled, sustained diet living where I was going to be living and doing the work I was going to be doing. And with my body now and at the time, especially then, like I wasn't able to maintain a constant weight. Like I had dropped 25 pounds in I think 3 months accident. Like it wasn't on purpose. I was like constantly sick. I couldn't eat. I was very like up and down. So it's just like, no, you can't go now. And so then I was like, oh my God, what the hell do I do? Like this was everything I've been planning for now. And so very quickly, like I had spent 9 months up to that point prepping to spend the next 2.5 years in another part of the world to have that completely taken back. So then I was like, okay, I need to come up with another game plan. And then I was like, I'm going to go back to school. I'm going to go to grad school. And then so I went and I studied for, I think it was like my GRE, and I did all this stuff and I took the test, and then and then I decided, no, I don't want to do this now. After I passed everything and I made it through and I spent all the money and all that. And so then I was like, no, I don't want to do that. Instead, I want to do this. And so then I went, and now I'm doing that route instead, which is like, I guess the best way to explain it would be like I'm an early childhood care specialist, which is kind of like a catch-all for many smaller job titles that I do, such as I teach baby and early childhood ASL. I teach French or attempt to teach Spanish. I don't speak it very well, but attempt to teach French and Spanish to kids. I do doula work. I do nannying work. I do babysitting work. I do like consultations. I work with parents that are breastfeeding. I work with parents that are trying to sleep train or bottle wean, or just kind of like all over helping parents with the first 6 years of their kids' lives. Because I was able to finally narrow it down. Like that's what I really am passionate about and like to do. And so I kind of every few years or so will work with a few different families where I rotate around and kind of help them be a family, do the family things and care for their kids and all of that stuff. So yeah, it took a long while of up and down many different paths to get here, but I finally settled on one.
Yeah, and so are you choose this like all this stuff on your own too, right? And so you're figuring it out on your own. That, you know what, I have to say sometimes like figuring it out, and I mean by yourself, is difficult sometimes. You know what I mean? And figuring out what you want without guidance, if that makes any sense. So at me right now, I'm getting, and it's not even a lot older, but I feel like a responsibility as well. And I see that you can relate to that, of figuring it out and not having structure, and it's okay, I'm an adult now, but like the struggles were like not having structure, not having discipline, and not feeling like a voice to figure that out. Did you ever struggle with stuff like that?
Oh yeah. I mean, the way that I grew up and was raised, I really had to raise myself in a lot of ways. And I was very much, even though I was surrounded by a lot of people, because I had 4 younger siblings, plus a mom and dad and a stepmom, and then, extended family as well. Like there were always people around, but we were not friends. We were not close. We were not family. And so in a lot of ways I was on my own. Like in so many ways I didn't have my parents that were really building me up, or, oh, you're going to be this, you're so smart, you can do, this was what I wanted. It like, that's stupid. Why, you're not even good at that. Why are you doing? So, and so for me, most of my life was just like having to figure it out on my own and just trial and error and hope that I'm not fucking it up too much as I go along. And so by the time that like I got to South Korea, and then like I started stumbling with my health and what I was going to do once I got back, to me, that's almost kind of what felt natural, because so much of my early childhood into adolescence and into my teenage years were just spent with me kind of doing that, like feeling uncomfortable and a little afraid and unsure, and just like, well, here I am. So let's do it and just see what happens. Hey.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, now, like, and especially at that time, because I didn't have the confidence that I do now. Now, like, I'm an adult, and I feel very comfortable with who I am and what I want and what I don't want and my place in the world. And so like when things are uncertain, like right now, when I can't take on new families and when I can't bring in that little bit of extra money I need, it's okay. Like, I'm not freaking out. Like, I know it'll be fine. I know I'll figure it out and I'll get through it. And it's whatever. Like, I don't have a strict game plan for the next 5 years. And like, that's cool. I'm not going to be freaking out about that, or if things change according, from what my plan is. Whereas, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, I would have just been like, oh my God, what? I don't know is the world ending? Is this the world actually ending? Like, and it would have been a much more complicated, internal and sometimes, external struggle.
Yeah, for sure.
So I think having that sounding board, it would have been amazing.
Yeah. Would you say that like is it just experience? You think that has like allowed you to build that confidence and like going after kind of like taking that big leap and going to South Korea? Is that what got you there, or have you done any therapy or anything like that?
Oh, I'm sorry. You cut out a little bit while you were asking that, so I couldn't hear the full.
Oh, I'll do it all again. I was going to say, so do you think like what got you from 10, 15 years ago, is that just like experience for you and building that confidence, like saying like going to South Korea and having all of those challenges with it and getting through that and seeing like, oh, like I really can do this for myself? Or have you sought like outside help, like done therapy or any sort of like religious or spiritual practices?
Oh yeah, a mix of both, honestly. So okay. I definitely have, I'm still in therapy, and I've been in therapy for the last few years. I mean, kind of, I guess, throughout my life, off and on, but most consistently for the last 3 to 4 years. And I love therapy. I can't praise it enough. I think that finding a very good therapist can be hard. And that's, I think, the biggest struggle. But yeah, honestly, it's just like dating. But like right now, I love my therapist. She's amazing. And it helps me so much, especially as someone who like doesn't have a parental sounding board or familiar sounding board to really play off of.
Absolutely.
It's, I only have me really. And as much as I try to be objective and unbiased, I am human, so I can't fully be that way. And it's nice to have someone else who, even though I am paying her to be there with me, she will still be like, no, or let's challenge that, or whatever else, which has been amazing and is really nice, and in a safe way. And then also, but yeah, just going out and doing things, having the experiences. I mean, experience is the best teacher, absolutely. I think. And there's just no substitute. I would not be the person I am now if I had not gone through all of the experiences that I had and made it through, and able to show myself like, I can do this. I can travel halfway around the world by myself, establish myself and a life, be good at what I'm doing and be successful and, you know, thrive. Like, okay, and I can bring myself back and do it all again. I can get through these really hard things and not, you know, die or not and come out of it, you know, maybe a little bruised and battered, but like I did it. And so
I made it.
Yeah, like I made it through. Like, but did you die? You know, so there we are. And I think also, and so it's a mix of like that, and also I don't know if it's like okay to talk about it.
You can talk about whatever you want.
Okay. I also have dabble in like recreational substances that I use in a therapeutic way that have really helped me. So for me, I really like LSD. It helps. I can't explain, and I don't know why it is. This drug works the way that it does for me because I'm allergic to many other drugs, and my body dislikes most other drugs, just like of any kind. But LSD, for whatever reason, really has helped me been able to come to terms with a lot of what my childhood was, and what my family is and was, and who they are, who I am not. It has helped me like access, you know, repressed memories that I previously did not have access to, although I, you know, go back and forth on whether that's a good or bad thing or not. It has helped me come to really learn how to love myself, because before I started dabbling into that, I wasn't even able to recognize like how much I hated myself, and I was afraid of me and the world, because that's how I was raised. I was raised to detest me and my existence, and there was no point to it. So why did it matter? It didn't matter. I didn't matter. And so like, I remember like early on, while experimenting with this, I would have some very emotional, you know, like breakdown or moments where it would just, I was realizing like, oh my fucking, I don't love me. How do I not love myself? Like that seems wrong. I can't, you know, how do I know why do I feel this way? Why is it, you know, why do I have this, or why is this, or, and it, I mean, to this day, like I want to say like a few weekends ago, I just did a solo trip in my apartment, and like used it to do yoga and meditate and just like center myself. And it really like just helps me, I think, remind myself of what is real and what is not, which makes sense because of the stigma that is attached to acid. But it, for me, has been a very clarifying, like spiritual experience. Like I'm not religious by any means. But if I'm any type of like spiritual, it would be like with this, like it has helped me connect more with myself and my body than anything else. And so I would say a mix of experience, therapy, and drugs has allowed me to...
What a combo. I'm here for it.
Hey, I want also, it's important to know, I was watching a Netflix show. It was called Goop. And they were showing how, I believe the FDA, I don't know if it's acid, but like a hallucinogen, they were microdosing for people. I don't know if it was depression or PTSD, but I mean, it could be used in a very productive manner, you know?
Oh my gosh. I mean, this is something that I could talk about at length, because I have met so many people that, you know, the stereotypes that surround it are so unjustified and incorrect that it's insane. But it's there. I think in Colorado right now, psilocybin has been decriminalized, which is, that's mushrooms, or like, you know, magic mushrooms or whatever. And I think that's awesome. There have been trials going on with using like LSD in microdoses. I mean, isn't that like in Silicon Valley right now? That's what all the tech startup bros and stuff do in their office. Like they microdose together during the week and like make apps or something. Oh, wow. It really is. There's something to it. Really does open. You have to be in the right mindset, in the right setting, in the right mood. It's not for everyone. Like, just like no drug on earth is for everyone. There's no substance in existence that every single human reacts well with. There are people that are literally allergic to water. So like, I always preface like, I love it and I think it's very healing. It is not for everyone, and it is not for all situations. You have to be very mindful and be very respectful of the substances that you do, no matter what they are. But when used in the right setting, under the right context, it really is good for opening your heart, I feel like, and your mind, and helping you reconnect with yourself and the universe and all of that other, hippie stuff that people say. There's just something to it that helps break down those walls and allow you to access the parts. For me, it's acid will say, hey, all that stuff you haven't been wanting to deal with, here you go. Mm-hmm. Look at it. Deal with it. Well, and then and if you're not ready, then that's when it's like, the quote unquote bad trip. But if you're ready and you're prepared and you have the coping skills in place, you can work through that and come out of it with a really positive trip, even though some parts of it might have been uncomfortable. Just like in therapy. Therapy's not always comfortable, but it's still like the long-term effects, hopefully, are positive.
Yeah, absolutely. I have done a little, but I've done like one mushroom trip, solo trip, and then I did acid last year at some point. And it was like, at first I was with friends, I was camping. It was like this amazing experience where everything was just like beautiful and like everything was hilarious. Like we were laughing so hard and it was just like this beautiful thing. And then we actually ended up smoking after we thought we were done with the trip.
Oh goodness, what happened?
What happened? Did not know that will like accelerate some things.
Thanks for telling me.
Ended up having a very, like, at the end, when it was like 10 to 11 hours of just like amazing, like, this is beautiful, the world is beautiful, and then like 3 hours of just like crying in my cabin alone, like losing it. Like,
I know, she's a sweetie, right?
quote unquote bad trip. But it's taken me some time. Like, I still will kind of, I've been sober since June, and I've smoked weed a couple of times since then, which I was doing it pretty frequently before then. And now I'm not doing it as much. Not every time, but most of the time that I smoke, like, those anxieties kind of come back up that were happening with that trip. And it's taken me, like, it just brought all of these things to the forefront for me, that like are things that I need to deal with it. And mine, a lot of it is like, I have this big block when it comes to like trusting people in general, and trusting myself, just trust. So that's like where all of it stems from. But yeah, it's like, I did that last May, and like I'm still working through like all of the stuff that it brought up. So I totally agree with you. Like, it's such a great way to just kind of like take yourself out of you for a little bit and get like this better look at like what's going on, what might be some blocks for you, and like just face it head on. And I'm like, I'm taking my time with it.
Can I tell you, I relate to that story too much, because the first time that I ever tried acid, I was in my apartment with two of my best friends, and I also did not know that weed would amp up or reignite the acid. And so it was like the end of our trip. We were, we were coming down, we were all tired, and we were just, like all laying on the couches in my living room, just babbling nonsense talk that you do when you're on drugs. And one of my friends like goes to light up, and I had only started smoking like frequently at that point, maybe within the past like 6 months. And that time, I was very late to the smoking marijuana game. Now I smoke weed every day because it very much helps with my physical discomfort and my mental discomfort. But at the time I was still like a baby newbie, and I was like, oh, weed, that makes me feel tired and it takes away all of my nausea and body pain. So why would that not be a good idea right now? And no one in the room that had been, doing drugs much longer than me felt the need to give me a heads up that, hey, don't do that. So me, being an idiot, just goes and starts smoking away like I normally do, just not caring the world, just going away. And then all of a sudden I'm like, guys, do you see the music notes in the air? Like, oh my God. I am the hard, and I am not some, like, I have strong visuals, but like, if you've done psychedelics, so you'll understand, like, it's not, you don't get the visuals on acid are not like what they show in TV or movies where it's like, oh my God, there's a dragon in the living room and it seems real or whatever. Like, that's not, it's usually just like things like they're wavy and blurry and they just morph a little funny and like maybe like there's shadows, there's like extra shadows that wiggle and stuff like that. But like I straight up was staring in the dark at my ceiling and we were listening to music and I was like, I am seeing musical notes. Like, and I don't know what to do with this. And like, I would close my eyes and I would start like living these lives. Like I was living like a million lives in like a minute and a half. Like it was insane. So I was like, I can't close my eyes because my visuals are going out of fucking control. But if I open my eyes, like my eyes are playing tricks on me in the dark. And I think that I'm seeing things that clearly I'm not, because I was still like lucid enough to know like none of this is real. Right. But I also can't turn it off. And so this is really fucking annoying. Like, I can't sleep and I just want to sleep and no one. And then so like, I remember going to my friends like, guys, I think the acid's back. And they're like, oh yeah, well, we just smoked. And I was like, why did you not
warn me?
Why? And so, like you, I had another 3 hours after that of just being like, when does it go away?
Yeah, exactly. Why am I still like this?
Where's the off switch?
Yeah.
And I mean, so like, and it takes time to really work through all the different messages I feel like that come through on these trips. And because you also are on drugs, it's hard to like understand like what is even like what message is this? Like why am I having this like, so like for me, like I will get a lot of flashbacks, which sometimes are okay and sometimes they're very uncomfortable. But like, it's in the beginning it was very jarring because I had no idea what was happening. I was like, is my mind creating images, like, or is this like, are these memories? Is this what people mean when they say like you do too much acid and you go crazy forever? Like what is it? And lo and behold, it was my brain being like, you're ready, here you go, champ. Nice. Here's some nice visuals and memories and emotional flashbacks for you. It's like, you're ready now, get in there. And so luckily, because I was in therapy at that time that this all started, like I was able to, with like a professional, work through all of this, because I'm always very open about like my drug use and what I'm doing, because I feel like that's the only way they'll be able to help me is if they also know what I'm doing and experiencing. And so like I always had a therapist or a mental health professional that knew like, this is what I'm doing, this is what's going on, what do you think about it? And I was able to really, take the last, oh my gosh, that was probably 3 years ago now, that trip. So the last like 3 years, even now, to like work through all of this stuff that have come out during trips. Like I'm still unpacking things. I'm still being like, oh, and there's more in this suitcase.
Wait a minute.
I thought we were done with this. No? Okay. Does it ever end? Is this like the Mary Poppins bag of fun? Like, what the fuck? I mean, I don't know if you've ever, I've tried, I don't enjoy it much, but I've done DMT a few times. And the first time I ever tried it, which was, I don't encourage or endorse, don't do this at home, anyone. But I was we were at a friend's like celebration, and it was like this big, like last man standing party. I didn't participate in that aspect of it because I am a pussy and I know that I am a lightweight. But I was like, it was last man standing was so everyone like in the morning was supposed to drop acid, and then if anyone around you decided to take another substance, like you would take it as well.
Oh my God.
Not a game that I would recommend to anyone. I was on my own mission. That was even still far too much, but was a great time. And that night, it was like in the evening, I had done acid at this point. I had Molly. I had like been smoking dabs for the first time that day, which put me on my ass for a while. I had done quite a few different things. And then some friends were like, we're going to do some DMT. Do you want to? And I was like, oh, you know, I've heard things about this and I just don't, can I watch you do it? And then like, depending on how it looks when you do it, maybe. And they're like, yeah, sure. Just come on. And again, love my friends, but no one around me thought to be like, you shouldn't, acid is not a drug you should mix with DMT.
Right.
and so like I was watching it, my friends are going around the circle taking their hits. And they're all cracking up, smiling, laughing, having a great time. And it's short. It's like maybe 5-10 minutes tops. And then like that they lean back and like their eyes will be closed, but they're having a great time. Then they come back and they're like, hey guys, I saw smiley faces or a turtle or whatever.
Right.
And so I was like, cool, I can handle that. I love turtles.
Turtles
and
are
so
great.
it comes to my turn. I'm nervous, but it's cool, whatever. And I took what I found out later was a big hit. I didn't know. Again, only started doing dabs that day, and it was like that kind of a rig. So I took what was apparently a big hit and was out for like 10 to 15 minutes, and it was an absolutely terrifying experience.
Oh,
if
no.
if I would say that I've ever had a negative trip, it would be this one. And I won't get into all of it, but like the basics of it was like I came out of it and then I cried for about 2 hours afterwards with my friends, and I was just like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And then like I would say oh my gosh, probably a full year or so, like working through all of the nonsense that like came unpacked with that was basically just like how like my whole life was being controlled and derived from fear and through fear, and how I really needed to like start having faith in myself and trust in myself and in the world around me and in my place, and like how I needed to really like start doing some work on myself because I was not right with it, with me or with the world. And like, because of that, you know, now I feel like I'm a much better, more confident, stronger person. The long loop-to-loop circle of that conversation coming back around is like the experiences plus those drugs and therapy, like definitely, I think, have helped me become the person now who just, you know, doesn't care about a lot, doesn't take a lot that phases me. I don't have time for like drama and bullshit. Like, and everyone says that, but I really I'm just like, guys, there are just so many bigger, worse things we could be dealing with. I just don't have it in me to deal with this. Like, I can't. Like, I love you, but no. Like, this is, you know, when I come home, this needs to be a place of happiness and comfort and warmth. And if you don't have that, go. Or, you know, like, I don't need to, like, I'm not gonna, oh, there's a scratch on my car. Like, that's unfortunate, but I have food in my fridge, so I'm happy. Like, things are great. It's really helped me find balance. And awesome. I would say like stability in life after a very unstable upbringing.
Yeah. Did you have to find yourself emotionally speaking too? Because I think like when you're with like people, and I'm not sure for you, but if it's not a good situation, a lot of those emotions are usually like suppressed.
Yeah, I would agree with that completely.
So did you figure out your journey of how to express that in terms for you that is healthy? Because I think when you're taught at a young age, like because you're speaking, you're like, I have a voice, like I have my own opinion and stuff like that. I can do this on my own. And there's a big world out there. Was it hard for you to even learn how to communicate with people on an emotional level?
Oh my gosh, it was so hard. I can't, even to this day, I'm still learning how to communicate with people because it's hard to express or convey like just how, in some ways, like growing up, I grew up faster then, I didn't have like a childhood. I had to really grow up and become responsible and accountable for myself and the adults around me at a very young age. But in a lot of ways, I missed so many integral life lessons, and learning how to communicate and understanding what I was feeling and thinking and my body, that was one of them. I just did not have a vocabulary for how to describe what I was experiencing in my mind and in my physical body. I remember growing up and hearing people, the adults around me talking and describing, I think it was around like 6 is when I was diagnosed with having like anxiety and panic attacks. I remember the adults telling me like, you have anxiety, you need to calm down, you're too anxious, but like no one told me what that meant. What is anxiety? Like you could tell me that I have Saturn, I have a tort. What do I have? No one defined it. No one explained it. So it's just a word, like money, bills are a word, we don't have money for, I don't know what that means. So what is that? What is a bill? Like what,
right.
And so no one explained that stuff to me. Like I knew that we didn't have a lot of money or that, we would have a lot, but no one explained like how it all worked. It was, so in things like that, I just wasn't given any kind of understanding for things. And so that led to, it would lead me to being very loud. I mean, I guess I still am a loud person in some regards, but like I was a very loud child in ways, like because I wasn't heard ever. I wasn't like asked my opinion or questions or told things. And so like I would get really overwhelmed and then I would just kind of explode into like this ball of rage or of like tears or whatever, because I wasn't able to get it out in any kind of healthy, regulated manner. And so for a long time, that would just happen. I would just like be over. It would be something simple. And now I know that these would be like triggering emotional flashbacks. At the time, I didn't know that's what was being triggered. But now I know they're called emotional flashbacks. And so like I would be having these and all of a sudden like, I would be in the middle of a restaurant and just start bawling. I'd have to run to the bathroom because I would be bawling my eyes out, dry heaving uncontrollably and not understanding what was going on or why like I was so upset about a mistake in a menu or because this person misheard what I said or whatever the case it was that was like triggering this thing that I was having this very out of proportion reaction to, but that felt very in proportion internally, and but I knew it was not, and then that would be frustrating and I wouldn't be able to explain why or what I was even happening. And so like, then I was getting more frustrated and stressed. And so it was like this just circular, thing of just not knowing how to express what I needed to express. And then not knowing how to, so not being able to, leading to it building up. And then just like it being of this giant outpouring. And then the process would start all over again. I would start it empty and then it would build. And so finally, like it was removing myself from the people that I was around. Now I am no contact to low contact with, I would say like 98% of my blood relatives. I have a very small circle of close friends that I keep, and that's it. Like I don't, I'm very careful about who I let into my life and who I bring myself around because I know that it does affect, how you view the world, how you view yourself, and other people, who you hang out with, the friends that you keep, the family that you have. And I learned that allowing those, like my actual blood family and stuff to be in my life was very toxic for my worldview and my own view of me. I wasn't able to love myself. I wasn't able to believe in myself. I wasn't able to see the good in the world, or my place in it when I was surrounded by people that were telling me like the world would be better if you didn't exist. Why are you here? We don't want you. Things like that growing up. You're stupid. You're this, you're that. And I mean, so one of the most important parts of healing and being able to move forward and building that vocabulary, having the ability to build that vocabulary was removing myself from those people and finding other people that were healthier for me, that were more in line with how I view the world and how, I wanted to be living my life, that put empathy and kindness and charity and humility first, and not, things like money or power or, whatever dynamic control that it was that my family was always trying to like harbor for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you're the one that you were saying you're the one that, like, in terms of like family dynamic, you took care of everything with your brothers and sisters.
So I had 4 younger siblings, and I was the oldest, or I guess I am the oldest. They're all still with us. So I am the oldest. And so, I mean, I was definitely one of the scapegoats of the family. So I was always, I feel like, trying to take the brunt of things, especially for my, I have 1 full-blooded younger sister and 3 younger stepsisters. And so, especially for my younger full-blooded sister, because we would get it from both my mom and my dad, and then also our stepmom. So whenever I would try to, whenever I could, like, no, get behind me. Like, there was a time our mom threw potted plants at us because we didn't wear the costumes for Halloween that she wanted us to wear when we were with our father. Okay. And so, like, it was me that was like, no, get behind me, get behind the wall. Okay. No, like, trying to calm her down and no, just, we need to clean it, do this, do that. Here, well, give me, you just go to the room. I will deal with this. Or if it was with our dad, we were raised in such a way that we weren't siblings and friends. We were like siblings as enemies. It was constantly pitting us against one another. And I don't blame anyone or anything for that happened during this time. But like, there were times when like they would try and pit like my sister and I against one another. And like, they would encourage her to tell lies about me to be in trouble. And I would just, yes, that's true. That's exactly what happened. Just if it would mean ending the conversation, if it would mean letting things stop so that everyone could be left alone. And so, I remember there was a time they would leave us home alone. Oh my gosh, during the summer, I think starting at around 8 years old, we would just get left home alone, like 5 kids, me being the oldest at 8, like all day for 8 to 9, 10 hours a day while our parents were at work. Just like, okay, watch TV, don't kill yourselves. We'll call and check in on you. And one of those times, my younger sister, I don't know what she did, something stupid, and jammed her finger and completely flipped back a nail bed. And so like there was only us. And so like I remember I had her, I took her under running water and I was just trying to like calm her down. And I like we had to flip it back and like unjam her finger. And like she used to have issues where her elbows would pop out of socket. And so very early on, I was taught how to pop it back in place, and the babysitter. Because it would happen so frequently. They're like, we can't keep taking her to the doctor, so we're just going to learn how to do it ourselves. Like, here, there you go. And so it'd be things like that, like all the time. I would, I remember I have very vivid memories. One time, I think I was in 5th grade, this happened. So it must have been around 10 or 11. I had really bad food poisoning. And so I was up in the middle of the night, going back and forth between my bed and the bathroom to throw up. And my stepmom came upstairs to yell at me, telling me that I was being too loud and I needed to shut the hell up and get my ass back in bed because I was keeping everyone else awake, and that was selfish. And like that started like as a young kid, hearing that. So I learned how to rely on myself and take care of my needs and stuff like that early on. Even though I didn't know early on, like what I was doing was like building coping mechanisms and all of this stuff. Like I learned very quickly how to like talk myself through like, okay, you just need to just go into the bathroom. You're just going to throw up very quietly, and then you'll flush the toilet, and then you'll tiptoe back into your bed, and then you'll lay down. And like, that's how I would learn to get myself through things, because I didn't have anyone else to talk me through. Like, you can do this, or it's okay. Like, I would do it to myself. Like, it's okay. You're all right. Da 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 da.
Yeah. You were like the nurturer, the parent, and You were everything.
Yeah, I was the therapist, the nurse, the friend, the parent, the this. I mean, even growing up, that didn't change, because our living situation would change, going back and forth between our mother and our father. At one point I would live with my mother, and my mother is still very mentally unwell. And so a lot of the time, like, I would be consoling her as she would, go out to bar. She had a very big issue with alcohol and going out and just like would hook up with random men and such, and then be very heartbroken when these men that she would pick up in bars didn't love her or wouldn't stick around. And so me being 16 would be in her room, talking her down, like, please, you don't kill yourself. Like, it's not that bad. Like, don't meet men in bars. That would be a start. These men are 20 years younger than you. That probably would also help, maybe, if we don't. Because she was someone who would constantly threaten to be killing herself, or having these premonitions of her dying in this horrible car accident, or how, like, because if I wasn't a good enough daughter, or if this wasn't going well, if this didn't happen, then she was going to die, or it was going to lead to this catastrophic end. And so I would, have to constantly have her friends on speed dial. There was a time I got a phone call because she was arrested at a DUI. And so I had to go to the neighbors to see if she would take me to school, because I had no one else to drive me. From the time that I was very young to now, it's been very much trying to rely on me, or me having to try and do what I can to the best of my ability to protect those around me, from the unsafe forces that be around us, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. So you obviously have a capacity for dealing with a lot of things at once. I'm sure maybe even like a superpower that probably other people can't do. So when they're complaining at work and they're like overwhelmed, you're like, really? You know what I mean? Because that makes perfect sense.
There have been a few times in life with people where they'll be complaining to me about like family issues or stuff. And I'm just like, that is rough. That is a tough time that you've got with your mom. Is your mom that sounds overbearing. Ooh, I feel for you. And
she baked you the wrong cake, She baked you the wrong cake.
I had a friend who used to complain because her mom they gave her like a family credit card to use to pay bills and stuff, and she would complain if like things weren't paid on time or in a certain manner. And I was like, oh God, it is rough to be you. It is rough. World. I've been paying all of my own bills since I was 17, but man, it is rough to be you. I don't talk about like my upbringing and stuff a lot because it's uncomfortable to say the least. It can be a little upsetting for some people. So a lot of the time it really is like, I do try to be very sympathetic and empathetic to people and give like an ear, like, I understand that is rough. It does suck. I get it. Trust me, more than most people, I get it. You can complain to me and I'm not going to hold that against you because I totally get it. But there are a few times when I'm just like, really? Like, really?
Is
this?
What you're gonna complain.
Is this what we're unhappy about today? Is it?
That's too funny. Man, yeah, definitely. It's a lot to comprehend. You know what I mean?
It's a lot even for me to comprehend, and I've lived it. Like I like talking about it to people. Like when I try and go through it chronologically, it's insane. Like I feel like at times I don't know, like describing the plot of a soap opera or like something that it doesn't seem real, because for me, I was raised to believe that the way that I was raised was normal. This is just how not everyone gets in trouble for peeing without permission. What?
No. Sounds made up.
I don't understand. Like not everyone gets like yelled at repeatedly for just breathing the wrong way. Like this isn't your normal, huh? You don't fall asleep scared every night about like who's going to enter your room in the dark. Cause like I do, that's not And like, for me, I did not know so many things that I thought were normal were not normal.
Yeah.
And like, I very much had a lot of moments where like, so now I know better, but at the time, like, oh, like we're sharing and like funny stories from our childhood. Here, let me tell you a funny quip. And then people are like, it gets quiet. I feel like that's not, that's,
I get that.
No, we didn't do that in our house. Like, what? No, we didn't. That wasn't a thing.
Yeah.
And so like, a lot of moments of that were me being like, oh, I should feel uncomfortable about this. Like, this isn't, I'm gonna, excuse me. Let me see myself out. It's taken me like 30 years to even get to a place where like I'm fully able to comprehend how traumatic so much of it was. And starting from such a young age, it doesn't seem real to me. And I lived it. Like, I have the evidence in writing and in pictures and in video and, in recording and stuff. I mean, it's still like is too much for me to fully grasp. So I get it. I get like, it's not fully easy to talk about. It's not easy to listen to. And so it is, it's hard really to sit down and just be like, oh, these are the things that I grew up that were normal for me, because people, it is uncomfortable. And I think a lot of people, like, I'm very used to being uncomfortable. That was my life, just being uncomfortable, being told that, no, you're not, you're fine, get over it. And so like now, like for me, like that's okay, whatever. Like that's my normal, that's my Tuesday. And like it took a process of getting like, oh, okay, this is how it is. I can sit in this and be okay in it. But for a lot of other people that grew up in ways that were much more loving, and I don't know, not normal maybe is the right word, but like, stereotypical, like a normal family dynamic, it's hearing all of these things. It makes them feel very uncomfortable, and they don't know how to sit in that discomfort. And so it automatically then becomes a conversation where I think is very well intentioned, but becomes a conversation where becomes one of like deflection or denying or trying to minimize like what happened. Like, oh no, are you sure? That's what, maybe they didn't mean. Well, maybe you're misremembering. I mean, you were so young. I met them and I never heard. I never got that feeling. Or, well, I've seen this person so many times. They never said something like that around me. And like, are you really sure? I just never, your dad seems so, your mom never, all this. Well, she was like that with us, but I always assumed with you guys it was different. And it becomes this conversation of not being about what I've experienced and how, and validating that, or the discomfort, the very real, like, you should feel uncomfortable hearing this. It's an uncomfortable thing that happened. This is natural. It becomes about easing the other person's discomfort. Sure. Rather than about like the actual uncomfortable thing we're talking about. And then like the emotional labor just doubles for me, because now I'm having to deal with the uncomfortable trauma I've lived through, talking about that trauma, and now trying to ease you through hearing about this trauma. And it's a lot of work. And so then I'm just like, I'd rather not even talk about it. Let's just focus on you.
Right.
I can deal with your problems alone much easier than I can my problems. Now your problems with my problems, right, on top of this. It's just like, so it's like a whole thing.
Yeah.
No, thank you, Boo.
She's like,
it's just me.
I have some things to say about this.
I have thoughts.
That's funny, because I would never, I guess, wouldn't have thought. I've heard of sort of that kind of phenomena a lot recently. My best friend has been studying a lot of like racial stuff, and doing like whiteness intensives. And that's like one of the points that's like as, I guess, just as like a white person, that you don't think of like when you're having these like difficult conversations with a person of color, and you're kind of like realizing like they're telling you something that like maybe you did, and then you're realizing it and you're like going through it and trying to like, and then they're taking on like all your problems. So it's kind of a similar thing, that it's like you just wouldn't think of that as happening, but then it's like it really does.
Oh yeah, it's exactly that. To a T. I mean, not to compare like the two issues, but it's any uncomfortable topic that gets presented to someone that challenges their worldview or their, it can be religious beliefs or their personal beliefs or their educational, whatever it is, but whatever it is that's challenging something internal for them. A lot of people have this, I think this like instinctual, like innate reaction to be like, oh no, like no, not me, not this, not now, you know?
Yeah, of course.
Because like, no one wants to be, no one wants to be the bad guy in the story, you know, and not to say that anyone is the bad guy, you know, but like no one wants to be the one that made the mistake or that's wrong or did the thing they shouldn't have done or said the thing or, you know, made the mess or whatever it is. No one likes to think of themselves in that light. You know, no one wants to think that like they're not the good guy in their own story. You know, like we always think that like we're the main character in the narrative. We're the one that the camera follows and all that jazz. Who has the quippy lines and who makes a mistake, but who has good intentions. And in the end, it all comes out okay. And they get the person and they get the job and the thing is accomplished. But like, that's not real life. That's plenty of people never get the thing. Plenty of people never get the person or do the stuff or whatever, you know, plenty of people, like, it just doesn't happen. And that's uncomfortable. These realities that I think, especially in this culture that we're raised in of the land of the free and we can do anything in America, anything is dream it, you can be it, work hard and it's possible. We don't like to have anything presented to us that says, no, that's not true. And it doesn't apply to you maybe, or this could be true, but it's for someone else or anything of that nature, because it makes us not feel good. It's uncomfortable to have to look at those truths in the face and be like, oh yeah. I mean, that's a harsh mirror to look at. But I think it's one that we all have to absolutely not only for ourselves, but for each other. It's when we have to look at and stare at and really come to terms with, because not acknowledging it doesn't make it go away. It just makes it something else that we're ignorant of and something else that can be used against us.
Absolutely.
And so like, it's, you know, it's, I think so important. Like, it's one of the reasons I do love talking about this stuff, because it's cathartic for me. And I think that it does, I hope anyways, is helpful to other people or someone somewhere who's either going through something similar or who is maybe has never gone through anything like this, and it will help them kind of expand their worldview or understanding of the plight of people around them that maybe they haven't, thought of or experienced before. But it's, it's stuff like this. Like, if you're ever talking to someone or in a situation somewhere and what you're experiencing is making you feel uncomfortable, like, I would never tell anyone to ignore that feeling, because there can be very valid reasons you are feeling uncomfortable. That could be your gut instinct telling you to get the fuck out. And I fully support paying attention to that instinct and following through on that. But I also think that there are times when we're going to be confronted with something that makes us feel uncomfortable, and it's not telling us that we need to, kick it and run, that we need to fucking hightail it out of there. It's telling us this is something we're not familiar with, and we need to get familiar with it.
Right.
This is something new, and new doesn't always mean bad, or doesn't always necessarily mean negative. It just means, like, this is uncomfortable because I haven't experienced it. And I need to really sit and absorb this so that I can learn something new. I can progress to the next level or go on to the next thing. And hopefully maybe talking about things like this will help other people also do that. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, and you came from crossed. Like, oh, well, yeah, fingers crossed. And she also, like, I mean, I think we delved into some of it, but also like going through a journey of reparenting yourself and then coming out and having empathy and like understanding, and to be able to like identify that whenever you're already struggling is a strong thing. And I don't know many people that could be put through such situations. And, you know, I don't know. I think you're great. And so
I think so too.
maybe not be able to even have precision like you do in awareness, which is super impressive to me. I'm like, wow, you painted a freaking picture there. Like I could understand it. It's, you know, I can see where, you know, where you're coming from and how that might be, you know?
I think that really comes from a place of being unable to articulate myself for so long, that when I was finally in a position and in an environment where I was able to start allowing myself to explore myself and the world and really learn about myself and what I had gone through and was going through, that I like ran with it. I was like, you know what? No one's ever taking this voice away from me again. I would have outbursts as a child, and like they would say that I was loud as a kid, but I mean, from like 16 to 26, there was no shutting me up. I was just constantly trying to learn and absorb and take in, and just like, I have a feeling, let me share it. And, you know, there were times that I definitely should not have shared as much, or maybe in the ways that I did, I could have shared in more, I don't know, productive manners.
Sure.
But it all led to, you know, where I am now, which is being very comfortable and knowing how I feel and what I'm thinking and all of that stuff. It took like 10 or so years of really just like hyper trying to learn and absorb and take everything in around me and then regurgitating it back out in a way to see like how it worked and what fit and where it fit and how it didn't. It was a very steep learning curve, but once I don't know, that ability was like opened up to me, like, oh, there's this whole other range that I didn't know. Like I had, what? There's all this stuff. There's a whole world of things I just not aware of, like social cues and norms and just everything that I didn't know. What is depression? I have depression. Oh, you mean not everyone is this sad all the time?
Right.
Weird. How do you live your life not sad all the time? Or not looking over your shoulder like you're constantly going to be attacked. You mean, oh, that's severe anxiety? I didn't know that's what anxiety is. Got it. Okay, cool. Now I'm understanding things. And it just like, once like that caught on, it's now like, I just can't stop constantly. Yeah. Even now, like I'm still like reading books, listening to audiobooks, podcasts, watching documentaries, everything I can to just try and like, I want to understand everything so that I can feel like I can make sense of things. So much of my life, things didn't make sense. I grew up in households that were a lot of like gaslighting and manipulation and not being able to trust my own memories and understanding of things, or anything, just not having any type of stability. And so for me, the best way that I can now be stable is to just understand as much as I can and be able to find ways to use that in my everyday life as much as I can, and in a way and to positively impact everything around me as much as I can, because I feel like so much of my life was surrounded by so much negativity and so much just ignorance and lack thereof. I want to just embrace the complete opposite now as an adult.
So amazing and like so awesome, and you just like have to be one of probably the strongest people I've ever, just to be able to come from that place of instability and insecurity and then build yourself up from there into this like confident person who's doing what they want to do and like hoping to better people's lives through their experience. That's so amazing.
Yeah. Ditto.
I feel mostly tired, I would say. I'm just tired. I'm very tired most of the time.
Yeah.
I would like a nap most days.
A scheduled nap from 12 to 1.
Right.
Oh my gosh. That would be heaven.
I have like one of those like heart rate monitor straps. It's called Whoop is the company. And it gives you suggestions for like how much exercise you did today, like how much strain you put on your body, and like how much sleep. And today mine was like, you should consider going to bed early or taking. I was like, oh my gosh, I love you. I'm going to take you up on both of those.
It's like that sounds like a great piece of advice. I will do that. There was what was an article that came out that said like drinking a glass of wine is like the same as like working out for 30 minutes a day. It's like pseudoscience, but that's all I needed.
You're like,
okay, well, let me get on my cardio. It's heart healthy. I'm doctors, or what do you want me to do? This is science. I can't. It was on the internet. That's
exactly
what I can't say no to this logic.
That's too freaking funny. That's too freaking funny. Heck yeah.
All right. Well, should we wrap things up?
Heck yes.
Thank you so much, Lily, for being on and sharing your story.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me. It was great talking.
Yeah, you were easy to talk to. And it was crazy how much flow you had in storytelling. I was like, I am thoroughly impressed right now.
Oh, thank you. I feel like I ramble a lot, so I'm glad it was more put together than it sounded to me.
No, it was fluid. It was definitely fluid. You're good. You don't even realize. I was like, dang, she gonna write a book next, y'all?
You let us know.
Listen,
I was on the pre-order list.
I will need a ghostwriter because I just don't have the patience for I wish I did. I just don't. Like, I love to talk, but I need someone else to like type it all down. So if you know anyone who wants to just sit and like hash it out, let me know.
Yeah, for sure.
I can talk their ear off.
Yeah. Well, no worries. Thanks for coming out, Lily. Yeah, and I'll.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I hope you guys stay safe and healthy during the rest of this pandemic madness. Yeah. I hope it ends sooner rather than later, but if not,
I hope
sure. Self-isolation isn't too terrible.
Yes. What is the like hashtag that's going around? We'll get through it together. But
that's really sweet.
Separately or whatever.
I didn't get into that part, but I like it.
Something like that.
Okay.
I'm about it. I'm about the sentiment.
Yes. All right. Thank you, Lily.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks for listening to us, guys.
Yes. If you want to give a shout out or just reach us.
Or send in like a topic you want us to bullshit on.
Yeah. Our email is helpthepodcast@gmail.com. And our Instagram is...
It is at The Help Podcast.
At The Help Podcast.
And you can search Facebook, The Help Podcast. We're on there as well. And you can find all of our episodes on any major podcasting platform.
Yes.
iTunes, Stitcher.
Or if you get confused, just email us. We'll help you.
We'll send you the link, girl. It's fine.
Okay, cool.
Thanks, guys.
Y'all have a good one.